There's been a significant focus on gender diversity in Havas. And every year, like we aim to do, you know, even more in areas, find avenues where we can support women growth and success. So with you here today, Sonia, we are hoping that we can do just that. For the benefit of people who joined in, Sonia is a distinguished ultramarathon runner who recently made history by ranking fourth overall at BAT 135, which is considered as the world's toughest ultramarathon. We are extremely proud and inspired by her journey, and we wanted to use this forum as an opportunity to speak to her and understand her experience closely. So on that note, Sonia, I'm going to, get on with some of the things that I wanted to ask you. Can you take us through your journey from growing up in Gurgaon to becoming an accomplished ultra runner in the United States? What were the key turning points in this journey?
Sure, Vandana. Thank you so much, first of all, for the opportunity to be here and be able to speak with you all. I think what you're doing in this organization is extremely near and dear to my heart. Over last 20-25 years, I've been very active in diversity and gender equality as well here in United States. So definitely your mission resonates with me. So first of all, thank you for that. So yeah, I'm very happy to share kind of my journey and be able to talk to the group. So as I said, I grew up in Gurgaon, India, not part of India, and my both of my parents were teachers growing up. So I just have this memory of like childhood, when I used to go with them, during summer vacation. They'll have days off. We would go to different places, South Delhi, I mean different parts of India. We traveled quite a bit within India, uh, but we would walk a lot. Like my parents were very against getting cabs or taxis as we were outside. The idea was always was to enjoy the outdoors and walk. And I just remember as a kid just walking miles and miles. I probably at the time wasn't very happy with that. I used to complain, probably,
Yeah,
but
I can
I do
relate to
to
that.
yeah but I can now see the connection and the impact that has had in me, right? Because when I came to United States, although I was not a runner in the beginning, my energy level on anything I would do outdoor was definitely much higher. Yeah, so I attribute that to some of that to how I grew up and how my parents.
Okay. So, you mentioned that running kind of became a habit to address stress. How did you transition from using running as a stress relief tool to participating in your first marathon? One second, just okay, yeah, good.
Yeah, so when I first started running, first of all, I remember those days when I was kid, and then you get into your, higher level of education, and you almost get so busy with academics, right? So I went through a phase where everything was about getting good grades and colleges and, first job, right? So I kind of left. Fitness wasn't a priority. I'm sure many people can relate during that phase. It's just so much pressure. But once I got my first job, I remember that's when I started to focus not only on fitness, but also I was observing that now all the academics was behind me. So how do you become a better professional? That was kind of the focus. But for me, I was initially, early days of my career, wasn't very confident about what I was doing. You again, talking about gender diversity, right? You're surrounded by all white male colleagues here, especially in US. So how do you kind of stand up to you and be who you are in a country where you look so different and you speak so different? So that started to kind of become a bit of a challenge or a stress factor for me. And then I started running because every time I would go through a phase like that, I would just go out and just go for a run and feel fresh and come back honestly feeling really good, mentally mostly. And that gave me kind of this push next day when I go to work. I'm feeling more confident. I want to be whom I am, so I started to observe that correlation, that the more I get out and just go for a run, it allows me to be so much better professional in my business, and I'm becoming just a better and more confident person or woman. So that's how I started kind of really hooked to it, right? So my first few years, I was just very consistent. So I wasn't a long distance runner, but I didn't skip running.
Yeah.
And that, I think, built the base eventually. So when my friends now eventually then I started running with friends, and it became more even social activity over the weekends, and they observed how I run, which was, I would not get tired easily, and I could go longer. So someone I remember recommended, said like, you should definitely give a shot to marathon. Like, you're so looks like so fit and so ready for that. And I was thinking, this is crazy, like 26 plus miles. Like, why would we run that? And
What's the need?
yeah, exactly. The first one is always, someone has to kind of see that potential in you and say, try it.
That's right.
And I did. So I started training, and I was just blown away. I mean, my first marathon in San Diego, California, I think I finished below 4 hours. Which for the first timer is not very usual.
Not, it's good. It's good. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think, and then I enjoyed it so much, like the energy, the adrenaline after that, the feeling after that was just completely something I got hooked up to. And so yeah, that started that. I knew
Then
after
the
that.
rest is history.
Yeah, exactly. I knew this is gonna be not the only time I would run marathon.
So tell me, you mentioned something about, how when you initially started to run and it really helped you kind of, feel better physically, it helped you be better professionally. How do you think that those mechanics work? Because, I'm also into fitness, and I know that for every problem in my life, I go to the gym. For
Yeah.
every problem, it could be physical, emotional, I don't know, maybe financial.
Yeah.
I mean, and it really, so I wonder how does one explain that? What do you
So I
think?
have, yeah, it's a great question, and I have 2 points there. I think one is, especially in today's environment when you are surrounded by so much technology, devices, right? People are texting all the time. I think just the time to step away from that. I mean, ultimately, it allows you to say, okay, I'm putting my
Yeah.
phone, in my bag, and I'm just out there. At least running, I don't. I mean, might carry my phone for safety reason. I'm not checking that, right?
Checking. Yeah.
So I think that itself, I think, is a big factor these days.
Yeah.
Is
It just
step
helps you disconnect from some of those things that you are probably, you know.
absolutely, because you need time to just reset and clear your thinking. I think the second thing I observe is there are so many lessons you learn in those things, right? When you're feeling tired and you say, I don't want to give up, because that's where the adaptation in your physical fitness happens. So whether it's going to gym or it's your last rep, right, which always feels a tougher, or
Toughest,
the
yeah.
last few miles in a marathon.
Yeah.
And when you say, no, I gotta keep going because finish line is gonna be soon, and it's not the time to give up. You think about that. That's the same thing happens in life, right?
Yeah.
When we have a whether it's a financial challenge or some kind of challenge, you learn that this is just part of the journey. Like, this is not the
Yeah.
time to quit or get
Yeah.
unnecessarily
I
stressed
guess
out.
you just realize that it's actually not as big as you thought, because there's so much more,
Yes, yes,
and because you're able to push yourself so much physically, and you realize that if I can do it in this aspect of my life, I think there's everything that I can kind of overcome.
that's
That's very
exactly
interesting.
right.
So just to go back to your running, what is it? about ultra marathons that appeals to you. So how do you prepare yourself? What? Sorry about that.
No
So
worries.
tell us what appeals to you about these marathons that you, and not only just the ultra marathon, because I understand you participate in others, and then how do you like prepare yourself physically and mentally for such events?
Yeah, great question. So I think what attracts me now to more what I would call longer distance runs, even longer than marathons, obviously, is what kind of I enjoy now. And part of that is because over course of this long distance, whether that's 100 miles, let's say, you go through so much ups and downs, right? Your terrain changes. You start in a morning in dark, you go to the afternoon or around noonish, it becomes really hot, then the sun sets and it's like really cold, especially where I live. There's extreme variation in day and night temperature conditions, and throughout that you're just it's so many unknowns, like the terrain, you don't know the course. Things happen, you get blisters, sometimes you get you could get sick, or the point is I like that uncertainty during that journey. And what I really enjoy is the problem solving part, because running at that distance is not just physical fitness,
Yeah,
also your mental ability to be able to deal with what comes to you, right?
comes
What are
to you.
thrown at
Yeah.
you, and how do you solve that without giving up again, without quitting, right? Some you should be able to prevent, so that's what I'm learning now. The more I do it, I'm saying, okay, how do I prevent some of the issues that can happen? But there's still going to be challenges in that longer journey. And again, I relate that to the personal life, your professional life. So when I finish, I always go through this reflection period. It's like, what did I learn, not only in the race and better athlete, but how does this really apply to real life? So that's, to me, that's more of what I enjoy, um, not just like kind of being an athlete and winning podium, and so that's what it's all about.
Do you in the process end up picking up some essential life skills? Like, I know that this marathon, I was reading about it, like starts in the night and ends in the next day. It's almost a 24-hour kind of a thing. I don't know. Any life skills that you've picked up?
I mean, yeah, I life skills, like I think first I've made a lot of friends and I've learned a lot. So that's kind of the benefit I do expect. But now all my friends, it's hard to find like-minded friends as you grow up, right? We were
Yeah.
talking about that.
Yes.
So I find that people who are running these races with me are typically the one who are very like-minded. So I think I find that just a benefit that I have received now.
So many more like you now,
know,
that gives you a lot of comfort, right?
yeah, and
Good
then
to
there's
know
the
that.
social part. Like was never like we're always so busy. We just never think clearly at times, right? So I feel like most of the benefits are more spiritual, where you have so much more time to think and think deeply about whether
Sure.
it's the issue you're facing or what's important to you in your life, what's next phase of your life looks like. So I think all the time that I spend on the trails and mountains running is so deeper thinking and
So
much
much
more.
more deeper, yeah.
Yeah, so I think I would say that definitely has some benefits.
So what is your typical, like, how do you prepare for a marathon like that, physically and mentally? Like, is there a specific time that you have to train, any specific diet, any specific fitness routine that you need to maintain to be able to run a marathon like that?
Yeah, what I have been able to do now is I maintain my fitness whether I'm racing or not. So I usually, I have a very kind of consistent routine. I'm doing runs on the weekdays as much as I can based on my work. And weekends is generally when I have a longer runs, Saturday or Sunday, right? I obviously go to gym for strength training a couple of times a week, do yoga, for stretching, flexibility. So I maintain this kind of, a good mix of different things I do, whether I have a race coming up or not.
Coming up or not.
Then I have a race then. I mean, I just finished one this weekend. Then 8 weeks kind of uh,
To that.
into it, I would step up a bit, right? Because I would be more deliberate about mirroring my runs in same terrain as the race. So if it's mountainous, hilly run, which I just did, it was like 17,000 elevation gain and much higher in altitude. I would then start running more hills, right? If it's flat on asphalt, like bad water was, I mean, it wasn't flat, but it was a lot of road running. I would mirror roads like that when I'm practicing. So I think I refined my 8 weeks into the race very much
Yeah.
based on what race I'm running. But other
Right.
than that, I think my routine is pretty stable and
Right.
consistent.
Okay. Was this your first bad water?
Yes, this was my first bad one.
So what inspired you to do this one? What is it that, like, what made you decide that, okay, I'm going to do this?
Yeah, it's a very interesting story. So I had not even heard about bad water until last year. So 2022 race of bad water. There was a video of that went viral. One guy, Bob Becker, and then someone mentioned to me about bad water. I actually am 4 hours away from the course, and I do hiking. I go hiking there a lot, but I had never heard about it for some reason. So when someone mentioned, I ended up kind of just Googling it, and one day, and I read about it. I got very intrigued. But what stood out to me was, and if you look at the page, they have a whole roster of people who have done from the beginning, like who has completed it, who has run it. So I kept looking for India, right? Just as a curiosity, like you're Indian origin, so you say, okay, how many of people from my country have done it? And it was very few names. So I got very intrigued. I'm like, wow, you look at other countries. I mean, there are so many people have run it, but I don't see India. And
Indians, yeah.
and then I started looking for women, just hoping that maybe I can talk to someone who has run it and get some like advice or just get a feel for what this is about. And I couldn't find a name. So then I emailed the race director. I said, help me. Is there someone from India, a female who may have done it? I'm just looking for, get connected. And he said, I don't think anyone has ever attempted this. So he didn't think that was had been done. So that got me very curious and almost gave me a bit of purpose, right? It's like,
How
and
lovely.
the way I think about ultras is ultra running 80% is mental, right? 80% of that is not quitting and be able to show your resilience and have that kind of can do attitude. And in my mind, I consider Indian female in general as very strong, despite all the social, other
Yeah,
issues.
mentally for sure.
Yeah, we deal with so many variables and factors and still are
Yeah.
succeeding, right? So I felt that this doesn't make any sense. Like, why would a woman in India won't attempt it? Forget about winning, right? Because
Yeah,
this is so much in line with who we are. We gotta have a
so
really good
true.
chance. So that
Yeah,
that was really gave me a purpose to say, okay, I think I should. I love running. I'm so close here. I
yeah,
and the course and from low to high, from night to day, there was so much kind of analogy again with the real life as you go through the course. I mean, I love the idea of that race being the one where you say, okay, you gotta put India map.
on the map. That's amazing. And
Yeah.
you did it. So when you finished the race, did you know that you were going to be like the fourth or the second? Did you know that? Like, or did you like realize that much later?
I would say mix of both. So before I ran bad water, what ended up happening was for me to qualify for bad water. The race director told me I had to run 300 miles at least, and then also there is an application process, which he said you're so new to ultras, not sure, you may want to get more experience, this is really the toughest race. So I was given this feedback, you may not be ready for this, so get some more experience under your belt. I mean, as we were talking, I knew what I was capable of because I'd been running and I've been, you know, I just felt very confident that this is something I could do. So I didn't know how to convince this committee, right, that looks into all these application across the board and really have that discretionary power in the end to say who is tough enough to get to the start line. So and I'll get to your answer, I promise. So when I selected these three different runs, I was like, okay, let me just give it my shot, because I have all I can do is show them what I'm capable of, and hopefully they will think that I'm capable of running Badwater. So in these three runs leading up to Badwater, I ran not knowing where I would stand. I just did my best. And all three I ended up winning, by the way. So my
Oh,
first ultra I was second woman. My second ultra I think I was top overall. Even the next men was like hours behind, and then the third one also I was in the top three. So that is what made my application process very strong. So coming back to when I started Badwater, I wasn't sure where I will stand, but I knew that if, like, with very little preparation, I could hit the
do
podium on
that.
other races.
Yeah, yeah,
This one I will have to put effort. Obviously, you're talking about standing in with world's best athletes,
best.
right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
So yeah, so my philosophy was, train really hard, work towards it, because who knows whether I'll get another opportunity or not. But kind of put all in and just hope that you're gonna be, some decent position. So I knew quitting was not an option, so that
Yeah.
I knew. So yeah, so I didn't know I was gonna be fourth, but I definitely think I had the feeling that I'm gonna just do my best and hoping for a good outcome.
So what did you do? The first thing you do after you completed the race, like the bad water, what did you do?
Wow. I think it was a very emotional moment. I was very surprised pleasantly that I got so much just overwhelming response from the community, running community in general, especially from India, I would say. And I'm so thankful for all the people, in India who were sending messages,
Really?
just recognizing that. So yeah, I think, and I would say part of me felt that mission accomplished, right? Because the point I wanted to come across was, yeah, we are strong. Women are should be represented, and we can do it if we put our mind to it. So I felt like first few hours was just digesting that and saying, not only I feel more confident that yes, this is, and hopefully this is not the end of it, this is just the beginning, right? More to celebrate and do. But I also felt like I enjoyed that, just the messaging and the support I got from the community. And so I did a lot of talking, and just I was just very much immersed in the
So
community.
obviously, finishing it, and obviously what you did was quite historic in so many ways, making you the first woman from India. Personally, has this impacted you in any way? Like, apart from all the support that you got during the race and before the race, and has it impacted you personally?
Yeah, I yes. I mean, as always, one, it has uh, given me a lot more confidence. This year has been difficult career wise. It's economy is bad here. Just my job has been gone through a lot of changes. So I think the impact of that is it keeps me going. Like, it gives me something to look forward to, right? Not only celebrate what I
Strength,
accomplished,
inner
but
strength, yeah.
yeah, yeah. And so I would say that. Secondly, I have been now getting a lot of support from companies, who want to partner with me, right? So I'll
Mm.
give you. example, I have a yoga company here, local hot yoga, which I used to pay so much just for one session while I was training. So they openly invited me to give full access to their facility anytime I want now. Especially local companies here, even shoe company. They
Wow.
send shoes now. So I'm able to save some money, I would say. But I
Those
also
are some of
enjoy
the perks.
working with these companies because
Yeah.
they're trying to, figure out their products. So I'm on their advisor now, brand
Uh-huh.
ambassador in some cases. So yeah, I've gotten some of those intangible benefits, I would say.
Any interesting anecdote or story from your runner career? Anything that you'd like to share?
I It is a great question. I have to think. I would say what bad water obviously is the one I would use, and I would say that the biggest learning I had was going into the race. Right. So this one needed a crew, as you probably already may know. So it wasn't like you just go and do. It was like intense planning going into it. Uh, we knew the course. I knew the course, but I had so many things that I didn't know about the race. So I had to pick a crew team, right, which will like four additional people who will be in car, taking care of my aids and supplies. And I remember just having series of meetings, and we were had so many like things to figure out together. So one, it's a teamwork, right? So as they say, behind your success there are so many people, that drive that. So I would say I recognize that a win like that actually requires a team to be on top, not just you. So that's, I would say, one. Secondly, when I first told them, my team, in one of the meetings, I still remember, they were asking me what's my estimated time, right, at each kind of station, because they had to plan accordingly with ice, how much water, how much, food. And I gave them the target, which was course record hours. I remember almost one of my crew member fell out of chair. Like it's like this is not even real. Like what you're talking about is beyond like possible. And I caught my team and myself. It's like think about that. Like on what basis do we are saying this is impossible? Like we have never tried it. We have never run it. All we can do is shoot, put a good target, and then it's all about execution. So my advice to my team was, I'm putting this target out there which might seem impossible, but I expect execution, right? I expect all of us to believe in it, that we can do it, and then not hesitate to do anything that comes in the way of execution, and doing it. And that was probably the main thing why we were able to do it, because they had to believe this was possible.
Yeah, yeah.
So I would say that to me is the biggest thing. I still get goosebumps thinking about
Thinking
that
about
moment,
them.
because people were trying to convince me. It's like, lower it down, like your expectation. This is your first bad water. We have 48 hours to finish. Like, why would we say 24 hours? Like, this is half the time. Like, this is crazy. And I'm like, no, we are doing in 24ish hours. Like that's what we are going for. And I
Amazing.
so much relate that to life, in life, like why do we settle for average when we can do better, right?
Yeah,
But
they can
it's
be
all
better.
you have to tell to yourself in life, that
Yeah,
you
yeah, yeah. Amazing, amazing. So, as someone who's obviously seen this significant success in ultra running, any message or advice that you would like to share to with aspiring female or general, I mean, any ultra runner, especially those from India? Anything that you like them to know, and or any advice, any suggestions?
yeah, I would say a few things come to my mind. One is, I uh, reflect back on what kind of gave me a few of these successes, which led me to be get selected in Badwater. As I said, I ran a few leading up to it, ended up being on podium on quite a few of them. And the reason at least early on for me, was it was because when I go there, I just enjoy. I immerse myself into the nature. I am not worried about anything else, but really embracing it, and being in the moment. So I think my first advice would be, whatever side hobby or sports or fitness thing you pick, it doesn't have to be ultra running. It could be, as you said, going to gym or tennis, or whatever. It's like being really kind of enjoying that and embracing that is really important, because that brings
Yeah.
the benefits, right? So I would say
It's not
that.
really about the win, at least
Yeah,
it's just about being there and fully enjoying what you're doing, right?
it's being passionate, it's loving something
Passionate.
you do, right? It's and then it's finding time to then be consistent. That would be the second one, right?
Yeah.
Because we all
Yeah.
have this, I'm
Yeah.
doing things and
We,
say
we
like,
all know we all know
yeah,
how many people make New Year resolutions about going to the gym and then it just falls apart in the second week of Jan. So you're right, consistency is the key.
yeah. So I would say a lot of that for me has been like being consistent, like just getting out of the door, whether you run 5 miles or 1 mile or 20 miles, isn't matter. Getting out of the door, making sure you put that
Yeah.
on your calendar and prioritize that as you would do any other important things, right? Is
Important thing. Yeah, absolutely agree. So, you mentioned that there are some other races that you're planning to take on. Can you talk about the next one that you're planning?
Yeah, I am trying to get into UTMB, for running community who may be familiar. This is more of European, or kind of more not just American race, but a world race, which again I've seen many countries being represented on the podium. I've seen a lot of people run. I just don't see as many, again, Indians.
And
There
women?
are people have run it. I've seen the names, but it is like you really have to search. So that's another one I'm planning to. It's really difficult to qualify now. So I think I will have to, just like in bad water, I had to kind of earn my own way into it.
Earlier, yeah.
Yeah, that's
Which
that
where
right
does
now
it
my
where does
focus.
it take place? In Europe?
It takes place in August, I believe, August or September. It's just I just saw a live stream last month, so it must be September, I think, first week of September or something. But yeah, I think, but I have to. I'm not sure I'm ready for that next year, because the process in itself is takes longer. But I do think that's the one on my bucket list.
On your
But
bucket
I will
list.
have to do some of the pre-qualifying runs before leading up to that. So I'm doing my research on that right now, and hopefully I'm gonna run a few just to qualify.
Amazing, and I wish you all the best. I hope you're able to get win that one for us, and again, maybe perhaps be the first Indian woman to win. Good luck with that. On that note, and obviously want to thank you for for being here, and I'm so happy you were able to join us. I want to now invite one of our esteemed journalist to ask you a few questions. Today we are joined by Anjali Istwal, senior editor and anchor for India Today Group Digital. Anjali has been working with leading media organizations since 1999. After more than 20 years in television news, she made her foray into digital with YouTube of India Today and Aaj Tak. In her new avatar, she has co founded a community to create a safe environment for women to travel. Adventure Women India is a private Facebook community of 1.5 lakh Indian women that engages in conversations related to travel. So thank you for joining us, Anjali, and over to you.
Thank you so much. I hope you can hear me. So, Sonia, one thing that I wanted to ask you was great. Firstly, congratulations for this great achievement. But you talked about consistency and you talked about the mental strength. You said 80% of it was mental strength. Now, how does that consistency and dedication, we know it's important for fitness, but does that help you in your workplace also? Because I see you are leading a team of hundreds of people in a insurance company. So does that actually benefit you in your workspace as well, your attitude towards fitness and health?
Absolutely. I would say, as I said, my running journey started from seeing that benefit, but the more I do it, I think I see it, and my team sees it actually. So I'll give you an example. The first thing is for me to train and be able to spend so much time in training, I have to be very diligent about how I spend my time at work. So I tend to put my running time on my calendar just like any other meeting, which means that it makes me so much more focused than when I am in business or in meetings to make sure I get what I want to accomplish from those meetings. So I'm much more focused. I'm much more productive at work due to that. And I also see kind of the confidence that comes from running and things that I learn, I'm able to apply uh, literally next day. Like I see a big difference in when I come back from races and how I either have solved a big problem during the run, or if not solved, at least I have a lot more clear thinking about how to approach it. So usually I come back feeling actually really pumped up and energetic and be able to get the team together and have those right level of conversation, and they see that in me. So I think that that's an interesting part. I thought initially, like, I thought this was gonna distract me from my business and or become in the way, but the more I do it, I feel like it's actually really helping. And my business partners actually do believe in my leadership, because they always say if you can do that, you can absolutely solve business issues. So that there is that element too.
Okay, thank you so much. And now next I wanted to invite Dr. Vimal Mohan, sports editor and anchor from NDTV. Equipped with prestigious Ramnath Goenka Award winner, Vimal has more than 25 years of experience in sports reporting. A PIB accredited journalist and award winning author, Dr. Mohan has covered four Olympics from 2004 to 2016, Cricket World Cup 2003, IPL, Asian Games, Commonwealth Games, and Hockey World Cup, besides several other major events. We are very happy to have you join us for this session, and over to you.
As you said that you did not know at that point of time that you were also being trained. I read a story about Kepkino. He was the one of the double Olympic gold medalists from Kenya who converted the entire Kenyan infrastructure in terms of sports economics. And now everyone in this world, whosoever trains for long and middle distance runner, they are bound to go to Kenya. So he used to go to school which was 5-7 kilometers away from his house without being known. I mean, without being understanding that he's being trained also. He used to run for that distance, and he became Kipkino, as it is widely known world across. So, I mean, would you please, because this is Badwater Ultra Marathon is quite different for all the journalists, all the Indian. I mean, I would like to point out one statistic, which is a bizarre statistics for sports. Like for sports, literacy in India is 6%, and amongst girls is 3%. So for those also who don't know sports, and what is this Badwater Ultra Marathon, and what are the different stages, difficult stages? As you said, one of the races you crawl for the finishing line, and so what are the most difficult stages of these races?
For for the bad water, the course itself is pretty interesting, because it starts in the lowest part of the United States, like desert, right, which is really hot because you have two mountain ranges across, and this course is in the middle. So the all the moisture, I think, goes from the top, is what they say. The area is really dry, but it's you go from lowest to the highest, and you're mostly on the road, which gets even hotter temperature wise. But you end up in a place called Lone Pine. I think that's where I started to have challenge, and then it's like climbing up the mountain. So I would say running is not even you people think possible during that time, that kind of climb. You're kind of walking mostly. but that's the part of the course which I trained pretty hard and learned how to run up the hill. I would go to a hills like those and go up and down running, leading up to the race to train. But I think what happened with me was, these I broke it down into 5 different marathons, right? Ultimately, it's 5 marathons and some more distance after that, like 10K after that. So I moved. So my first 4 marathons were pretty strong. I was way ahead. In fact, if I had continued that pace, I probably would have finished top 2 or 3s. But then the last one section, which was the climb, that's where I had some significant injury, and I couldn't tell what happened. It was very temporary. I put ice on my legs, and I think it stopped blood circulation to my leg. And I didn't realize the implication of putting ice in the middle of the race. I thought I was just trying to keep it fresh, and but those are the things you learn from experiences. And then what happened was I started to fall down. The moment I would get up, my legs will, it's like almost you had a paralysis attack, and I couldn't tell. I was feeling really strong. It's like, what happened with me? Like suddenly my legs wouldn't move, and I would falling down because there was no blood or oxygen supply to my legs due to the amount of ice I had put. Suddenly from being very hot to like that cold put the body in shock. But so yeah, so I had to crawl. Unfortunately, that last section wasn't my strongest section. And I had to, but that's the real, again, life, right? We were talking about, like, you don't give up when that happened. Like, my friends were crying at the time, when people who knew what was happening, which not many people know because that was all behind the scene, they had thought that this is the end of my race, and I this is it. And I remember telling my crew is like, I don't care, like, if we can't run, we'll just walk. We can walk, we crawl.
Crawl.
But we get to the finish line at this point.
Amazing.
So I continued. I was very, very slow, which cost me more than a couple of hours of my planned time. But I am fortunate and blessed that I was able to finish still. And that once I sat down on chair and 15 minutes, problem was gone. I'm like, oh my gosh, like, like, why would we quit for something as temporary?
Fantastic, Sonia. One last question, and I would like to conclude. Sonia, I mean, carrying a tricolor on the podium is ultimate feeling for any athlete, and that's how many of the role models and icons. I mean, they become Olympic champion and Asian champion. But for a common person of this country, and we are, I mean, I would say we are passive sports lover. We are not active sports lover who would want to go on the ground and run. So, but how important, because you are a role model, you have been having a kind of impact in Gurgaon to San Francisco. So what is I mean, how important is for all of us to run? I mean, as we were talking, let this country run.
Yeah, I think it is something that we all owe it to ourselves, I think, and for our country. I will tell you, a lot of times, even talking about this challenge, when I wasn't sure whether I could make it, or I was having doubt, I was visualizing the India tricolor flag at the finish line. That was definitely something. I started with that in my mind at the start line. Anytime I would have any doubt, I would just visualize that. I said, I have to do it for the flag, not for me. Like, I cannot. When my crew said maybe you should really quit because your body is giving up, who knows, the medical implication could be huge. I remember saying that no, this is like, if imagine if I quit now, what is the message? India, female runner quit. So it's like, there's no way that we owe it to our country to do better than that. So that was definitely a reason and a motivation. And I do think that that's something that I would encourage all of us to think about, right? And it's not for just, again, a podium. It's the message here is that we are equally strong than any other nation. I mean, I'm seeing so much progress being made in last few years in all different areas of economy and whatnot. But this is definitely, I think, in sports, this is a very critical time for our country. And I think the more we can not only have confidence and do more as a group, but really take other people along. That's my motivation, and I hope we continue to do that.
So much. Thank you so much for everything.
Thank you, Dr. Mohan, for joining us. Thank you. Okay. Thank you, Sonia. And I really enjoyed listening to you. It's quite such an inspiration. I don't know if at this age I can start running, but but I'm going to keep up with my gymming for sure. And thank you so much, Prachi, for facilitating this for us. For reaching out to Sonia, and I appreciate you. I know this time is now for you to like start all your morning routine, and you joined us. Really appreciate it. I'm sure that all of our employees have really enjoyed listening to you, and I see that most of them are still on board. And I wish you all the best for the next race that you're planning, the big one in Europe. So wish you all the best.
Thank
Have a
you so
lovely day.
much for
Thank you
having
so
me.
much for joining us.
Yeah,
Bye
thank you
bye.
so much. Thanks for
Bye
joining.
bye.
Thank you.